Y'all, this week we are going to make 3 different types of soups. We are going to start out with hamburger soup. So the first thing I do is throw 1 pound of ground beef onto the stove and let that start browning while I prep my other ingredients. The second thing I'm going to do is rough chop 1 onion and mince 6 cloves of garlic. And then I'm going to add that in with the ground beef. And while the ground beef is cooking, I'm going to let the onions and garlic cook as well. Once the ground beef is cooked and the onions have started to become translucent, I'm going to add 48 ounces of beef broth. I don't actually use beef broth. I use water and bouillon. It's a 1 cup to 1 cube of bouillon ratio. So if you don't want to buy beef broth at the grocery store, you can use the beef bouillon option. That's usually what I do. And then you're going to dice 2 cups of potatoes and then add those in. And then you're going to also add in a 14.5 ounce can of diced tomato, a 16 ounce bag of frozen vegetables, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of W sauce, and 1 teaspoon of parsley. Then you're going to cook that over medium to low heat until the potatoes and vegetables are cooked through. Generally, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and then this serves 8. Note on the W sauce. I'm pretty sure it was the Fit Frugal Mom. I was watching one of her videos not that long ago, and she asked her European audience, British audience, what the actual word is. Like, how do you say this? And I guess several people sent her like audio of them saying the word. And it's like Worcestershire. Nope. I'm not going to say it. If you want to look it up, I will. I'll try to find her video and link it down below where she says it. She had to play it over and over again before she could say it, I'm pretty sure. So, anyways, she had some European audience that sent her audio of how to say it. So, anyways, on to the next soup. The next one we are going to start, we're going to do the next 2 soups at the same time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how to start the French onion soup, and then we're going to make pretty much the whole broccoli soup in while the onions are caramelizing. So, to start the French onion soup, you're going to very thinly slice 6 medium yellow onions and mince 6 cloves of garlic, and then you're going to put that along with 2 sticks of butter or 1 cup of butter into a pan, put it on low, medium to low. Like my stove goes from like low to high, and it's like 9 different options. I usually put it on about 2.5, and that's about perfectly the right temperature. So, anyways, you're gonna put that on medium, lower heat, and then you're going to caramelize them. And in my recipe that's linked down below, there is a picture to show you what caramelized onions actually look like. You want them to brown, but you don't want them to be crispy. They start sticking to the bottom with that Maillard reaction, but it's not actually like frying the onions. So while we are waiting for the onions to caramelize, we are going to start our cheddar broccoli soup. What we're going to do is dice up half of a medium yellow onion, 6 cloves of garlic. We're going to throw that in a pan with 1 stick or half of a cup of butter, and we're going to get that on the stove. The thing we're going to do is mince up 6 cloves of garlic, and then we're going to throw that in the pan with the onions and butter. While that is cooking, we are going to shred up 1 carrot. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button if you enjoy this kind of content. Leave me a comment down below if there's some kind of recipe that you're interested in learning. Over to the stove, we're going to check on our onions. I had thrown a lid on them to help sweat them down a little faster. Going to throw in 1 teaspoon of salt. Salt helps pull moisture out. So that should help the caramelization a little bit quicker. Just a side note, if you look up other French onion recipes, a lot of them will throw sugar in with their caramelized onions. I personally don't like putting sugar in anything unless I absolutely have to. So I do not put sugar in my French onion soup. And honestly, I don't think it makes that big of a difference, especially after you get in the wine. That's already got natural sugars in it. So just a note there. I get the salt in, I'm going to give that a good mix, and I will return the lid to it and let it continue to cook down. So what I've been doing over in this other pot, my onions and garlic are done cooking. I don't know, they're kind of caramelized, but not caramelized the same as this French onion soup. So since those are done cooking, I threw in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, mix that in thoroughly, and then put in 1 pint or 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. And then you're only going to see me add 1 pint of milk, but you're going to add in 4 cups of milk. This is one of those recipes that I usually just eyeball everything. And yeah, so I had to adjust my recipe. I wrote down kind of what I thought I did. And then I ended up having to add more milk at the end because it was just way too thick. So anyways, it's 4 cups of milk. You're only going to see me add 1 pint. And then you're going to mix that together and let it cook for a little bit just to thicken up. Say about 3 to 5 minutes. Right, this is what caramelized onions are supposed to look like. After you get your onions caramelized, you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and mix that in thoroughly. Then you are going to add 1 cup of wine. Generally, it's supposed to be white wine. However, all I have is red wine on this day, so that's what I'm using. It needs to be something on the drier side. It doesn't have to be super dry, but you don't want to use like a Moscato or a Sangria or something super sweet. You want something a little more on the drier side as far as wine goes. So you're going to dump in your cup of wine, and then you're going to deglaze the bottom of your pan and let that simmer for just a couple of minutes. And then you're going to add in 4 cups of beef broth. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now that I messed this recipe up whenever I was making it. You can see that I'm also making bread right now as well, but I'm not sharing the recipe for that at this second. Anyways, so I messed up this recipe for this French onion soup because I added 8 cups of water. And I mean, it would be 8 cups of beef broth, but at the end of it, I'm like, why is this so thin? And it was because I added way too much water. You're supposed to stop at 4 cups. I added in 8 cups. So that is linked down in the description does have the correct measurements. So if you follow that, it will turn out perfectly. At the end, I ended up throwing in a little more cornstarch just because it was way too thin. It still tasted fine. It just wasn't the right ratio of onions to liquid. So anyways, after you add in the beef broth, you're just going to let that simmer and thicken up. Probably like 5 to 10 minutes on low heat just to kind of let like I said, let it thicken up. Back over to the broccoli cheddar soup. I've already added in the shredded carrots, and then I'm going to add in 2 16-ounce bags of chopped broccoli. And mix that together and let it cook for a couple of minutes just to kind of let the broccoli start thawing out. After it thaws out, then you're going to add in 1/2 of a block of cream cheese. So that's 4 ounces and 8 ounces of shredded cheddar cheese. And you're going to also add in your seasonings, which would be salt and pepper. It's 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. You're going to mix that together, let the cheese melt down. Like I said, this is going to look really thick because I I just didn't estimate the correct amount of milk that I would normally put into this. So anyways, the cheddar broccoli soup, after the cheese melts, it's ready to go. Super simple. We're waiting for this French onion soup to thicken up, and it's not going to thicken up properly. So do as I say in the recipe, not as I do in this video where I botched 2 of these recipes apparently. But they still tasted good. I just modified them a little bit at the end so that they worked out. I said before, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button if you have not already done that. And then leave me a comment if there's some kind of recipe that you want to see. The broccoli soup and the hamburger soup are both done. However, there is one more step to the French onion soup after you get it to the correct thickness. Like I said, if you follow the recipe that I have linked down in the description, it will turn out fine. I want to say you can't eat this soup the way, just as it is. I have done that multiple times. Sometimes I'm just really lazy and I'll just put some in a bowl and eat it with some bread and it's delicious. What you're gonna do, I'm only gonna make 4 ramekins right now just because I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator and I don't want to make a whole bunch of those. I like to reheat the soup. It reheats better if you don't put it in the ramekins and then throw the ramekins in the refrigerator. So I'm making 4 ramekins. You're just gonna, it should make 8. So I'm gonna take about half of the soup, which there's a lot of soup here because too much broth and stuff. Anyway, so it should divide evenly into 8 ramekins. I do 1 ladle full, but since I know that I have extra because there's extra liquid, I put a little extra in the ramekins. Now, normally you would put a slice of French bread on top of each of the ramekins. However, my husband does not like the bread on his soup. He doesn't like trying to cut through the bread to get to his soup. So what we usually do is put cheese on top of the soup, broil it, and then we eat our bread on the side. We've also done it where we just have the hot soup and we put the cheese on our bread, broil the bread, and then eat it in our soup. So anyways, there's a few different variations of what you can do. In this specific one, I'm just going to put the cheese on top of my soup and then put the soup directly into the broiler. That's generally how we do it. However, if I were telling you to make this the traditional way, I would tell you to put a piece of French bread on top of the soup, then put cheese on top of the bread, and then put all of it into the broiler. It's a lot easier if you put your ramekins onto a sheet pan. That way you can put them all in, and it's easier to pick them up rather than try to pick up the little individual ramekins with, oven mitts or hot pads or whatever. Just say, how delicious does that French onion soup look? Like, even if you don't like French onion soup, I still think it looks pretty freaking appetizing. So anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you next time. Bye, y'all.